I've wanted to try and send a message to America that we're paying attention and we're not happy.
Yes, the only minority that is ruining America is the billionaires. It's them. It's no one else except for them.
If even Costco, the last shield for millions of working classes Americans, is also now falling, then what's left for the 10 weakest states still clinging to it? In Q2 of 2025, Costco's store sales crawled at 1.7%, far below the 3.5% investors hoped for, a 2.3% drop in foot traffic, the first in 4 years. And high-ticket items like TVs and appliances down nearly 7%. Americans aren't shopping anymore. They're surviving. This isn't just about one retailer. This is the collapse of the entire low-cost middle class. Costco was never a luxury. It was the lifeline of many people. Cheap items, $60 membership, affordable for struggling families, for millions. It was the only system that they could count on. But that system is breaking.
It's the small ways we can protest as consumers. A lot of people are trying to express their anger, their feeling of betrayal by the United States.
Membership renewal has slipped from 92% to 90%. It may sound small, but in Costco's world, it screams panic. The silent exodus has begun. Even Costco is closing warehouses in lower profit, high-need regions. So what happens when the very foundation of budget survival disappears? This video will take you inside the 10 US states where residents no longer have choice. These are the places where Costco's quiet retreat signals something darker. The end of the affordable middle. This is the downturn report, where the truth gets personal. Let's begin with number 1. Number 1, Illinois. What if the last place you counted on for feeding your whole family quietly disappeared in the early months of 2025? A quiet rupture spread across the outskirts of Springfield. Costco, the final stronghold of affordable, reliable food, shut its doors. No headlines, no protests. Just silence. And then, long lines forming at local churches. Not for sermons, but for bags of rice, powdered milk, and cans of soup. It didn't feel like an emergency, but it was. There had been a rhythm here once. People filled their carts on Saturdays, filled their tanks next door, and maybe gave the kids a dollar treat on the way home. That fragile routine held families together. Until the foundation cracked. 1/3 of Costco warehouses outside of Chicago suspended operations, including the one serving thousands in Springfield. Suddenly, there was no next trip. No bulk buying. No quiet assurance that the week ahead would be manageable.
I wiped out my savings account. I maxed out my credit card. I had to take out a loan.
Illinois was already staggering, burdened with the highest pension debt in the country, over $211 billion. But this was something deeper. In Chicago, food prices surged over 10%. Bus routes were cut back. Community health centers shortened their hours for families on fixed incomes and retirees who carefully stretched every dollar. Costco wasn't just a store, it was the last safety net. And when that net is pulled away, life becomes a series of impossible choices. Bread or bus fare, medication or meat, dignity or dependence. Each week turns into a calculation. How much further can we stretch what little we have? The state's shrinking working population leaves behind neighborhoods full of elders, parents, and part-time workers. People whose survival depends not on luxury, but predictability. And Costco, for years, provided exactly that predictability, stability. A place where savings felt possible. A place where one trip meant one less worry. But now, that place is gone. There's a quiet fear settling in across Illinois. Not loud, not panicked, but heavy. When even Costco retreats, the question isn't just who will feed the neighborhood. It becomes, who still believes this neighborhood matters, and for the families now depending on church donations, or skipping meals to cover utilities. The absence isn't just about groceries, it's about being left behind. Some still remember when having a Costco nearby meant you had made it. Today, it's a reminder of what used to be possible, of how close comfort once felt, and how easily it can vanish. Number 2, Michigan. What happens when even Costco decides a city is no longer worth staying in? There used to be 5 massive Costco warehouses scattered around Detroit. Now, just 2 remain, and even they have started shrinking into shadows of their former selves. Shorter business hours, fewer staff. Bare shelves where your whole week's supplies once stood. It's not just a sign of reduced demand, it's a warning. The model of affordable survival is breaking. Michigan has known loss before. The fall of factories, the migration of workers. But this moment cuts deeper. Because this time, it isn't just jobs leaving, but the infrastructure of daily life. In places like Flint and Pontiac, where the last full-size grocery store has vanished, Costco was never just a convenience. It was the last reliable anchor. And now, even that is slipping away.
We are going to see food shortages, empty shelves, job losses, and even higher inflation with all these tariffs.
Today, over 40% of Michigan households live on the financial edge. That means one unexpected medical bill, one missed paycheck, one increase in gas prices. And families are pushed into crisis. At the same time, retail and logistics employment has declined by nearly 7%, the lifeline for many blue-collar workers. It's not just the warehouse clerk or forklift driver losing hours. It's the ripple effect. The pharmacy next door closing early, the produce supplier cutting back, the delivery truck skipping smaller towns altogether.
I was on my way to work, and then I got a personal email about my position had been eliminated.
And so, what's left a gallon of milk might now require a 45-minute drive. Fresh food becomes a luxury, not a choice. What used to be smart shopping has turned into survival by cans, shelf-stable, over-processed, and often overpriced. Parents buy whatever lasts longest, not what's healthiest. Seniors on fixed incomes skip meals to afford insulin. Kids grow up thinking real vegetables come in frozen bags. Costco was once the great equalizer. With one membership card, anyone could walk through its aisles and feel empowered. Buying in bulk wasn't just practical. It was stable. But when even Costco cuts hours and retreats, it signals something terrifying. That the numbers no longer work. That serving these communities is no longer viable. And when corporations pull back, government help often doesn't step in. People are left to figure it out alone. What if Michigan isn't just declining, but being quietly written off? And when the last place that promised value and consistency begins to fade, what will remain for those still trying to build a life here? Number 3, Alabama. What do you do when the closest place to buy your whole week's supplies is hundreds of miles away, and you're running out of gas?
Tough times are coming, whether you like it or not. Unfortunately, things are going to get a little tougher. Prices are going up. It's already happening.
That's the question thousands of families in rural Alabama are now forced to ask every single week. It's no longer about shopping smart. It's about survival with whatever's within reach, if there's anything left to reach for. Just a few years ago, a Costco or Walmart was never far from home. Today, entire counties have become food dead zones. From Michigan's shrinking retail map to Alabama's disappearing essentials, the pattern is no longer isolated. It's a spreading crack across America's affordable foundation. And here in Alabama, the fracture cuts especially deep. Since early 25, Alabama has lost over a dozen major retailers, with closures clustered in counties where incomes were already below average, in areas where over 17% of residents live below the poverty line. The loss of a Costco is more than an inconvenience. It's devastating. The state's economy, once held together by traditional industries like manufacturing and transport, is no longer enough to anchor national chains. High logistics costs, an aging population, and underfunded infrastructure have turned many towns into retail deserts. In the human cost, retirees now rely on neighbors for rides to distant stores, if they're lucky. Some switch to overpriced corner marts, paying nearly double for half the nutrition. Workers who stocked shelves or drove trucks for Costco are out of jobs, with nowhere else to turn. And in rural school districts, kids lose access to milk and produce because school lunch programs can no longer buy in bulk. What vanishes with a store isn't just the groceries. It's the invisible web that holds a fragile economy together: jobs, nutrition, independence. Costco, once a badge of smart living for America's working class, has become another retreating promise. And when even that leaves, it sends a chilling message. This place no longer counts. You don't hear much about Alabama in the national news. But in towns where families used to survive on $60 Costco hauls, that silence feels louder than any headline. It echoes in empty pantries. It shows in skipped meals. It weighs on parents quietly redoing the math after every grocery trip. And maybe the most haunting part isn't what's already lost, but the sense that no one is coming to rebuild what's gone. Number 4, Kentucky. What if the last familiar store in your town vanished and no one even noticed? As we move from Alabama's quiet collapse into the hills of Kentucky, the silence only deepens. In a forgotten Appalachian town, residents watch the red and white Costco sign come down without warning. No announcement, no thank you, just gone. And now, for thousands of families, a simple grocery run means a 90-minute drive, if they're lucky enough to have a car, or money for gas. Here, the question isn't what's on sale this week, it's, do we have enough to make the trip? Kentucky is not a place that shouts. It works, it struggles, it endures, but even endurance has limits. As of mid-2025, over 400 large retail stores have closed across the state, many in counties already living below the poverty line. More than 22% of Kentucky's population now lives in poverty. An entire fifth of the state is forced to survive without stable food access, reliable jobs, or functioning infrastructure, and in many counties, the retreat of big box retailers like Costco means total retail isolation. No Walmart, no Kroger, just overpriced gas stations selling canned soup and stale bread. No one is rushing in to replace what's been lost. The economy here still leans heavily on outdated industries. Coal, small-scale manufacturing, sectors long in decline. With underfunded schools, aging hospitals, and crumbling roads, few corporations see a future here. For Costco's model of bulk buying and high turnover, Kentucky's small towns no longer pencil out. They've quietly fallen off the map. And what happens when the map forgets you children now bring instant noodles for lunch because their schools can't afford fresh food contracts? Mothers skip meals to stretch milk money. Weekend markets run out of vegetables by noon because fewer trucks are coming and fewer farmers can keep up. Costco once served as a kind of neighborhood stronghold, a place where $60 could feed a family for a week, a place where neighbors crossed paths in the checkout line, shared savings tips, maybe even shared rides. But now, with shelves shrinking and locations disappearing, that lifeline is fraying. And the message is clear. Even the most dependable retailer has stopped betting on these communities. This isn't just about food, it's about faith. The quiet belief that your town, your job, your life still has value in the eyes of the system. And when a company built on value and volume decides your people no longer matter, it leaves behind a lingering doubt that maybe, just maybe, no one else will come to believe in them either. Number 5, Louisiana. What kind of place have we become? When canned soup is considered a privilege from Kentucky's quiet unraveling, we descend further south, into Louisiana, where the loss hits not just the pocket, but the soul. In Baton Rouge, the familiar hum of bulk buyers and weekend crowds at Costco has gone silent. The store that once anchored a working-class neighborhood is gone. No sale signs, no restocks, only an empty shell and a parking lot now serving as a pop-up food relief center. Louisiana has always been a state defined by flavor, culture, and community. But as of 2020, 18.6% of its people live below the poverty line. In just the past 18 months, more than 15 large supermarkets, including Walmart and Costco, have closed their doors. And 38% of rural parishes have officially become food deserts, where no fresh food store exists within 20 miles. For residents without cars or consistent income, that distance is insurmountable. The causes are layered and deeply rooted. Louisiana's economy remains tied to unstable sectors like oil and tourism, vulnerable to both market crashes and hurricanes. The state ranks near the bottom in education and healthcare investment. Public infrastructure is aging, battered by storms, and rarely repaired in time. And with no long-term recovery plans after COVID, businesses see too much risk and not enough return. But behind every closed Costco is a human cost that doesn't show up in annual reports. Parents now pay triple at gas station marts for bread and cereal. Elderly residents skip meals or rely on friends to share what little they have. Rural clinics can't keep nutritional programs running without bulk food contracts. Children bring sugary snacks for lunch because that's all that fits in their budget. Costco never meant luxury. It meant control, feeding a family of 5 without sacrificing medication or electricity. In Louisiana, where even soup kitchens now ration powdered milk, the closure of Costco is not just a business decision, it's an abandonment. Not loudly, not cruelly, but completely. If even the most cost-effective, community-serving model cannot survive here, then what kind of society are we choosing to leave behind? Number 6, Mississippi. What country do we live in now when a child grows up without ever seeing a grocery store? From Louisiana's collapsing lifeline to Mississippi's quiet erasure, we move from scarcity to near invisibility. In more than 40% of Mississippi counties, there is now no supermarket within a 30-mile radius. Not even one. No Walmart, no Dollar Tree, no Costco, just lonely highways, shuttered storefronts, and the bitter truth, food access has become a privilege, not a right. Between 2023 and 2025, over 700 retail stores shut down across Mississippi. A state already carrying the highest poverty rate in the nation, 19.4%, has now entered a phase where large parts of it function without any modern food infrastructure at all. In towns where residents used to gather at community markets, there are now only gas stations selling microwavable burritos and shelf-stable leftovers. Some places no longer even have those. But this is more than economic decline, it's social disappearance. The elderly skip meals because delivery vans no longer reach them. Single parents walk 5 miles for milk and bread. Working families pay up to 20% more for lower quality, because convenience stores are the only option left. And kids, many now grow up thinking grocery shopping means picking a can of soup from a dusty shelf behind a plastic barrier. The reasons are systemic, slow-burning, and brutally familiar. Weak investment policies, no tax incentives, young people fleeing for opportunity elsewhere, aging roads, stagnant wages, absent infrastructure. The result is a retail void, a place where even a minimum standard of access has been quietly denied. Costco, for years, symbolized the last line of economic dignity: one membership, one bulk purchase, and a month of food security. But in Mississippi, even that line was never drawn. The state was bypassed entirely, not for lack of need, but for lack of perceived value. What does it mean when the market doesn't just leave, but never arrives? When the very idea of affordable food becomes something you only see in movies or hear about from someone who moved away, this isn't just a business gap, it's a scar across the map. If a grocery store is no longer expected, what else are we being taught to stop expecting? Number 7, Arkansas. There's a strange silence now in parts of southern Arkansas, a kind of pause between what people used to count on and what's left. In a state where Walmart was born, where the phrase "everyday low prices" once felt like a promise, residents now travel over an hour just to find a Costco. That is, if they still have a car that runs and money for gas. The deeper you drive into these rural counties, the more it feels like time stopped. The roads are cracked, but what hurts more is what's missing at the end of them. Grocery stores gone, pharmacies gone, even the dollar stores feel like they're barely holding on. Their shelves thinner each week. And inside homes, pantries are stocked not by choice, but by what was left at the corner store overpriced, processed, and days from expiration. When Costco chooses to skip entire counties, it doesn't just mean one less shopping option. It signals something heavier, a withdrawal of trust. A belief that this population no longer justifies investment, no longer has purchasing power, no longer matters on a spreadsheet. If Arkansas, birthplace of affordable retail, can't keep a food network alive, where else might the cracks already be spreading? Number 8, West Virginia. In a hollow near Beckley, there's an abandoned community center with a faded sign, "Free Food Wednesdays." No one comes anymore, not because the need is gone, but because the food is. The nearest warehouse store sits over 3 hours away, and the last small grocer closed its doors the same week the town lost its clinic. In West Virginia, disconnection isn't a metaphor. It's a bus that stopped running, a road too dangerous to walk, a cart that no longer rolls because there's nowhere left to push it. The state's economy was once anchored in coal. But when the mines dried up, no one came to replace them. Not tech, not retail, not even hope. Young people left, jobs left, and now, even the stores are gone, not just Costco, but any sign of structured supply. What remains is a whisper elderly residents asking neighbors for rides, children getting most of their calories from vending machines, and whole towns operating in survival mode. If no store ever opened and no one ever noticed, does the loss still count? Number 9, Nevada. Out in North Las Vegas, the neon lights don't flicker, the casinos still hum. But just 2 blocks away, the rhythm of daily life is off. The shelves at the local Costco are thinner. Fresh produce comes late, if at all. And 2 warehouses that once served tens of thousands are now permanently shuttered. Nevada's economy has always played high stakes. Tourism, gaming, and the illusion of endless motion. But that motion rarely reached the neighborhoods behind the strip where night shift workers clock out and hope there's still milk available nearby. With food inflation surging above 10.8% and warehouse access collapsing, families are forced to adjust. Parents skip meals, seniors eat less to make prescriptions last, and entire apartment blocks coordinate grocery trips like emergency operations because one missed delivery means a week of going without. Costco once offered structure in a state built on unpredictability, a warehouse of calm amidst economic chaos. But now, even that anchor is slipping. Warehouse closures, reduced fresh inventory, and longer gaps between restocks make the city's outskirts feel like a supply desert. If a state built on economic illusions loses even its last symbols of stability, what's left for the families that never gambled in the first place? Number 10, Alaska. Winter in Alaska has always required preparation. Stocking up wasn't just a habit, it was survival. A single Costco trip could keep a family warm and fed for months. But now, in Anchorage and beyond, that routine has collapsed. 3 of the state's 5 warehouse stores have closed in the past 2 years. And in communities where supply planes can be delayed for days or never arrive at all, the cost of a Costco run has doubled. One family reported spending nearly $280 for the same cart that cost $120 just last year. For remote villages and indigenous communities, the implications are far beyond inconvenience. There's no backup plan. When Costco shrinks its distribution footprint, it cuts the last affordable artery into regions already frozen in isolation. People here are turning to canned goods stacked 5 years deep. Medicine comes late or not at all. And the sense that anyone on the mainland notices that too seems to have disappeared. Costco wasn't a luxury in Alaska. It was infrastructure, a promise, a quiet pact between economy and geography. So when even that pact is broken, what's left to carry people through the next storm? When even a system as optimized as Costco, built on the pillars of affordability, consistency, and trust, begins retreating from the weakest states, it's no longer just an economic shift, it's a warning. A signal that the backbone of American consumer life is quietly collapsing from the bottom up. For decades, working-class Americans weathered crisis after crisis with nothing more than a Costco membership and a careful budget. A bag of rice, a pack of canned beans, a promise that there was still a way to make it through. But if even Costco can no longer survive in these regions, then what will we rely on next? This isn't just about retail. It's about the slow unraveling of something deeper, the belief that the system was built for everyone. If you live in one of these states, your story matters more than ever. Tell us, what have you seen? What have you lost? What do you fear might be next? Because sometimes, the stories of survival we think are too small to matter are the very ones the whole country needs to hear.